So I thought I'd do a bit of a video talking about the different tools I use while leather working. These are your basic little items, uh, and this is all you need to get started really. It takes a while to get there, but once you get there, you're fine. So when I started off leather working, I used this knife here, just your simple flicker knife. They are good for when you're starting off, and you don't need to do a lot of different types of cuts. Then this is the knife I'm using at the moment. So it's very similar to this knife here. Obviously, it's a lot smaller. I find it a bit easier to use. Bit of a thumb rest for there, so you can get more force while you're cutting. So the difference between the knife I started with and these knives is you push with them. This one's more for like thinning down leather, which is why I have this little glass piece here, just so that I'm not damaging the knife as I am working with it. Then one of these is always useful to have when you're working, as leather does dull up your knives quite quickly, so you're constantly having to just hone them a little bit just to keep them nice and sharp. What I use for my leather strop is carborundum powder and beef tallow. It works absolute wonders. Now, some leathers don't take well with being cut with knives. Very much like this suede. It's very, because it's very supple, you have to keep it stretched at all times if you're cutting with a knife. That can throw off your straight cuts because you're stretching the material, warping it. So you're better off using a pair of heavy shears like these. So when you're cutting thin leathers with these, you use this, the front part, and then if you're starting to cut more thick leather, you cut nearer the back. So that's all your cutting equipment. That's all you need. As I said, you just need one of these, maybe one of those, but you can, with these, because of the blades are so cheap, if it starts dulling, just snap it off, chuck it in a little jar, you're fine. Now, you have your straight edge here. So it's actually quite useful. We use a lot of things from other industries. So this is a roofer's ruler. I've got a little bit of masking tape on the back just to stop it from slipping. This is to give you a nice 90-degree straight edge, but you can never go too far with too many rulers, as long as they're made of metal. Always use a metal ruler that isn't too sharp, because with leather, any marking will come up. So this is a strap cutter. You can set it to any size you want. Just wait and pull that, move that along. And then as long as you've got a straight edge, you just pull this and you get a nice, straight, even cut. Got your hammers. This is what I use for when I'm tooling. Bit easier to use. This one is when I'm punching holes into leather. These I just use so then I can place a pattern onto the leather. They hold it down, so these are like different weights. They hold the pattern to the leather, so then I can just mark around it with both hands. And talking about marking, you have your scratch awls here. These mark the leather just so you're able to see it and you're not using a pen, because using a pen, it leaves a mark. Now, if you're going to be edge beveling the leather, pen doesn't matter, because you'll be cutting that off. As long as it's a very thin pen line, you don't want to use something too thick. So if you're edge beveling, you need a couple of sets of edge bevelers. This is number 4. I use this with the 4mm leather. it cuts off quite a bit. So I use the ones that have a rounded bottom, means I have to do less work while burnishing. Number 2 is the one I use most often. You use these on all sorts of different types of levers. It is the most common one to use because the leather thickness I use is between 2 to 2.5 millimeter thick. But anything smaller, you do want to get a number 1 and smaller bevel. This is your edge burnisher. So once you're done with dyeing up your leather and put your burnishing fluid on there, just go in and you just go along the edge like this, and that'll make a nice smooth edge. This is your bone folder. This is good for pushing in when you're wet forming. It is good for folding the leather over without leaving any marks. You can get these made out of plastic or wood. However, I do suggest getting the ones that are made out of bone, because bone is a harder material. It's not going to chip as easily as plastic or wood. Going to remain smooth for a very long time. I've had this one for years and there are no scratches or anything on it. And it means that I'm not transferring any marks onto the leather. These are your pricking irons. This one is a straight one. This is mainly used for thonging, whereas this one is an oblong one. It adds your holes on at an angle. It makes a bit of a difference to how you stitch it, but this is a 8 stitches per inch. You can get these a variety of different sizes. So needles, always need needles. I have loads of needles, and that's why I have this little case just to carry them around in. And then finally you have your lighters. I've got a little electric one there, or for when I need to go in a bit deeper because I can't quite reach it with that one. I just have a basic lighter. Get these from quite cheap shops, and this one control how big the flame is. That's why I like those ones. Now I do have a variety of other tools, but you can do the very basics of leatherworking with simply just quicker knife, edge beveler, scratch awl, cheap little thonging chisel, strap cutter, and hammer. Those are all you need. Obviously, you need a straight edge. Most people have rulers in their houses, but this is all you need to get started with leatherwork. Obviously, I've gone before, so I've gone a bit further because these knives, the professional little leatherworking knives, they are quite pricey. They'll last you a good few years, but because you have to keep on sharpening them to make sure the edge is very nice and true, you'll be removing material over time. There'll be a point where you cannot sharpen them anymore. So these knives, do not purchase those types of knives until you're absolutely certain that leatherworking is for you.